How do you find a conservative babe to date? How do you get involved in politics? How do you reply to people when they ask you about Trump's less than perfect record, especially with women? And how do you deal with the hate that conservatives get? I answer those questions and so many more on today's special podcast episode. My name is Elisa Steele. You're listening to Deconstructing the Culture. Welcome to the first episode I have of answering all your questions. Lately, especially with all of the activity in politics lately, I have gotten so many questions into my inbox that I couldn't even begin to answer them. Definitely I couldn't reply to them all on Instagram, much less be able to properly answer them on the podcast. It would take a lifetime. So I am setting aside this episode, which is actually being pre-recorded because when you're listening to this, I will be on vacation, living up in the sun and drinking fancy non-alcoholic drinks because I don't drink. But in the meantime, this special Monday episode, get to enjoy listening to me answer all of your many questions. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Whitney asks, how do you think we should help babies born into abusive households? Say a mom is getting abused and is being assaulted by a man she thought she could trust. He seemed charming at first, similar to what Ted Bundy does to charm women. You're very descriptive. And the mom ends up pregnant but doesn't want to carry the kid into the world that is messed up with genes from the dad. Let's say he's an alcoholic and is addicted to gambling and also has a mental issues, addiction. What should she do? Okay, so here's the thing. You are essentially saying that a child who may be born of a father who has addictions, you mentioned alcohol specifically, and is born into an abusive or dysfunctional situation, doesn't deserve the right to life? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying. And I am answering this question specifically because a lot of the things you mentioned were things that I personally was born into. I was born into a polygamous family. That means a man with multiple wives. My father had multiple wives, and my mother was his fifth wife. And he was abusive, physically abusive. He also struggled with alcoholism and is a severe alcoholic. And I was born into that, to a teenage mommy in a dysfunctional family, to an abusive alcoholic father. You literally outlined a story that is my story, saying that child should be aborted and killed because it's going to be born into that. That's terrible. I'm sorry. Any excuse you throw out there as to why a child should be killed because life might be difficult for that child or for the mother is invalid. Having a difficult life or a difficult, rough start or born into a less than perfect situation is not a reason to kill another human being. Okay, that's the answer to that. I'm going to go ahead and move on. TWS, where can I find a conservative babe to date? I've actually answered this question before on another podcast, but I'm going to answer it again because I get asked this a lot. The short answer is, first, you need to make sure that you're a conservative babe. You cannot be expecting to find the cream of the crop, amazing conservative babe, male or female. I'm speaking to men and women right now. You cannot expect to find an amazing conservative babe who is active, who is attractive and takes care of themselves and their body, who is passionate about, if you're Christian, who's passionate about their faith. You cannot expect to attract that into your life and be attractive to that kind of person unless you are first filling all of those same boxes that you're looking for. So go work out, eat healthy, become really invested in the conservative movement and defending the unborn or whatever it is you're passionate about. Get involved in those groups. And I can tell you right now, if you do that and you're invested enough, eventually, just by the fact that you're pursuing conservatism and your faith and whatever it is that you're looking for, you're going to find yourself in groups and volunteering for things and signing up for projects that are eventually going to put you in contact with like-minded people, men and women who are just as passionate as you are. And you're going to find them by joining those groups, by becoming more active, by making yourself into more of the person that you want to find. So that's the answer to that. Darish asks, in the Democratic Party, who is the greatest threat to Trump in the next election? Trump is his greatest threat. Somebody needs to take away his Twitter if, the truth is he's doing a pretty decent job as far as policy goes. He just needs to not say dumb things, honestly. And then as far as actual people, probably Kamala Harris is kind of my kind of guess right now. We'll see as we continue along in the election. Hayden asks, when did you become pro-life? Well, you know what? My family has a history of pro-life activism. I've talked about that in other podcasts as well, from an uncle who, put this huge vinyl sticker of aborted babies on a bus and parked it in front of the governor's mansion in our state, to my mom. She used to take me up to the Utah State Capitol when I was a little girl to help lobby in favor of pro-family, pro-life bills. So it really was kind of in my blood from the beginning. But then I think the moment when I would say that I was really, truly pro-life is actually, if you're familiar with Lila Rose, congratulations to her. She's pregnant with her first, actually. But Lila Rose started an organization called Live Action. And it started because she went undercover into Planned Parenthoods and got it all on tape and audio of them doing the most horrendous, outrageous things, from covering up rape and incest and abuse to doing underage and illegal abortions without parental consent. It was truly, truly just shocking at the time. When I watched it, I was probably about 13 years old, and she inspired me. And I remember telling my mom, because my mom actually introduced me to those videos, and she was like, Elisa, you need to know about this. You're getting older. And I just remember watching those, and I just remember thinking, and I probably even said this because I know I've said it quite a few times throughout my life, especially when I was younger, but I think I remember this strong impression of, this is so wrong. Abortion is so evil. And if there's one thing I want to do with my life for the rest of my life, is to defend these babies who can't defend themselves. And that's when I became pro-life, and I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't know how that would turn out, and I definitely never envisioned myself doing a podcast, because podcasts weren't around at that time. I never knew what that would look like. I honestly wanted to go undercover like Lila, but my mom said no. She said 14, that was too dangerous, too risky. But I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So that's when I became pro-life. Benson asked, who are some of your favorite conservatives you would recommend listening to? I would start with the classics. I mean, I love a lot of the modern day commentators. Obviously, Ben Shapiro is a huge one. Katie Pavlich, Ali Stuckey, Michael Knowles, of course. I mean, Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh, holy cow, like, I love those guys. There are a lot of really amazing commentators that are really great. At the end of the day, I really recommend to get your own conservative voice. You really have to go back to the classics. You have to go to Bastiat and Cleon Skousen and the Federalist Papers. You have to go back and find out where modern day conservatism even started and the principles behind what you believe in before I would really go to modern day commentators. I mean, a lot of the commentators today are amazing and phenomenal, and honestly, they weren't really around when I was younger. So I'm really thankful that we have them. I'm just saying, if you're looking for more than just commentary, you want to know reasons why and theology behind conservatism, then you need to go and study those classics. Taylor asks, what made you decide to start a podcast? I'm too long-winded for Instagram. Are you kidding me? My stories, while they're great, they can only be so long. You can only do so many 15-second videos. I needed some space to really dive into subjects deeply and explain them in a way that could be more than just a soundbite, but actually help you to go forward in your life and know why, the how and why behind different issues, so that you could share that with your friends and family. And really, sound bites don't really do that for me on Instagram. Instagram is fun and I love it, and I love my tribe there, but a podcast actually, I feel like in the end, helps me to communicate ideas, bigger ideas. Let's see. Now, this is one that I get a lot. So I didn't even bother copying and pasting a specific question for this one, because this is something I get so often, is how do I support Trump? Or this is usually how people ask it. How do you explain to people when they come to you and say, Trump has done this, this, and this. He's cheated on his wives. He's slept with porn stars. He is a less than honorable human being. How do you get behind him? Well, the answer is very difficultly. I did not vote for him in the first election, the 2016 election, because of those. I felt like he didn't have a strong enough of a track record as a conservative for me to actually believe him there. And then as a human being, he's kind of a little ooey and a little gross, and he's done a lot of things I definitely do not approve of, and I have a very difficult time saying I support Trump, quotation marks around that, because as a Christian, he's done so many kind of sleazy things. So at the end of the day, what I tell people is I don't have to agree with someone 100% to realize that where policy comes in, he's doing a really good job. Where policy comes in, where Supreme Court judges come in, he's doing a job that I approve of. Now, is he perfect even in policy? Heck no. He has this whole fascination with tariffs that is bad for our country, and that's a whole nother subject. But is he perfect? No. Should his Twitter be taken away? Yes. Has he done some very morally gray to black things that I don't agree with at all and do not support? Yeah, absolutely. So I just tell people like it is. I don't really like his character or the lack thereof in some places, but for our country today and in the policies he's instating, they're good for our country. They're what I can get behind and support. And so that's what I support is policy. And unfortunately, it's currently attached to a human being who's flawed like all of us. And unfortunately, being in the public eye the way he is, your flaws are on display for the entire world to hear and know about and judge, unfortunately. And in the private sector, a lot of people maybe you're associating with and you're friends with and you agree with them, maybe they've got some crazy flaws too, but they're not in the public eye, so they don't have quite the microscope over them. Tom asked, how do other young females tend to respond when they learn you are conservative? I think people just want, like, I know in the Instagram and Twitter universe, it's different than real life. I get attacked a lot, obviously hardcore on the internet. The hate is real, it's evil. But in real life, people don't really attack me. Day to day, I wear a lot of conservative, especially pro-life t-shirts. People don't really approach me about them. They acknowledge it, maybe with a nod or even a small word, but people don't really want to cause a fight. They don't want to say angry, hurtful, mean, evil things. In real life, people are a lot nicer, and they definitely don't say those things to you. So usually I don't get much of a reaction in real life. Devin asks, how do you accomplish your dreams as a college dropout? Same way you would if you were in college. College in today's world is more like an expensive pedigree or piece of paper. Well, that's not for every single field of work you go into. Some are very valuable college degrees. If you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, then you probably need to go to college. But if it's something else that doesn't really require a dream, you're going to pursue it with the same tenacity and strategy as you would if you did go to college. It doesn't really change anything. You just have to be smart. You have to, and I mean street smart. You have to be able to connect with people and work on yourself so that you bring value to a company or to if you're going to be an entrepreneur, whatever it is, you need to bring the value that you would regardless of whether you had that degree or not. How do you deal with the extreme hate you get as a conservative? I actually did a whole podcast on this. It's called Rhino Skin, and I talked about my personal experience. Actually, I learned this because I have a polygamous family, and I got a lot of hate even growing up. People not willing to be friends with me because of my family, which was hurtful, and I tell that story on that podcast episode, Rhino Skin. But the long and the short of it is you just have to remember, hurting people hurt others. Let me say that again. People who are hurting in pain, they hurt others and try to cause pain. And you just have to remember that. Remember that only God knows their story, and also they don't really say it in real life. So on the internet, you just don't read the comments, move past it, and remember, listen, they probably just need prayer just as much as anyone else. All right, Kenneth asks, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons? Dude, I have no idea. That is a weird question. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maya asked, what would you recommend to a young person on how to get involved in politics? I've also done podcasts on this, but the long and short of it is if you want to get involved in politics, you need to not be a mockingbird. You cannot just be repeating what other people are saying. You cannot be repeating just the highlights and memorizing highlights to, have a buzz fire answer to someone. No, you need to understand the philosophy behind conservatism. You need to understand why you believe in what you believe. You need to understand and have read a lot of the classics, like I said before. I mean, some of the starting books, even just to get your feet wet, I would definitely read the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers. I would read Economics in One Lesson, which is an intro basic. I mean, everyone should read Economics in One Lesson. It's a very small easy to digest book on economics that every American, honestly, everyone should read. The 5,000 Year Leap by Cleon Skousen is phenomenal. The Proper Role of Government, another very short but very digestible but very on point book. Proper Role of Government is written by Ezra Taft Benson. Those are just a few of the ones that you should start with, and then go back and read Bastiat and read John Locke and understand conservatism at its base. And that is how you're going to start getting involved in conservatism, because what's going to happen is you're going to be soaking this up like a sponge. You're going to be learning it in every fiber of your being, so that when you do speak to someone, you know that you have it locked away in your heart and in your mind and the why. And you need to read the other side. You really need to read and understand the other side. You need to read Rules for Radicals that helped shape Obama and Hillary's tactics in modern politics. You need to read the Communist Manifesto. You need to read Mein Kampf by Hitler. You need to understand the radical left, the radical everything. You just need to understand both sides, so you have not just a biased picture, but you understand both sides. You understand how they conflict. You understand the key flaws in the left, and then also where maybe it's a little trickier to explain your argument on the right. So you're going to have this so soaked into you that it's going to start oozing out of you. You're going to find yourself waking up and wanting to record a video about it, or waking up and wanting to write something down about it, or wanting to go speak about it on college campuses, or whatever it is. You're going to find it oozing out of you because you're going to have just been digesting all this information. And that's how you're going to get involved on a practical level, like the next steps after you've gotten really involved in reading and understanding. From there, you're going to want to get involved on a local level. Now, that can mean a lot of different things. It can mean maybe your town council. That can mean maybe you go to your local state capitol and find a citizen lobbyist group. And there's some all over the United States. I don't know all of the names for all the different states. In Utah, we had Utah Eagle Forum, as well as Family Forum Policy Council. And we had all kinds of small conservative groups that love and welcome young people, especially learned young people who are willing to use their voice, their passion, and learn from the people around them who have been doing it for a long time, how to get involved on a local level, on a state level, or even on a community level. And from there, once you get your feet wet, once you become a little softer around the edges, and you've burned off some of your crazy loud ambition. And I don't mean ambition in a bad way. I just know that a lot of young people who are green behind the ears, they want to dive right in and destroy the liberals. It's not really how the system works long term. That's only for YouTube sound bites. But to actually make long-term change, just get involved with your community on a community level. Find mentors who are willing to help me. I had some amazing mentors in Utah who taught me how to read and understand bills and the judicial and legislative language. And you need that. You need those people around you. So find a group, especially I would say an older group who has more experience than you. Find a group to get plugged in with, learn from them, be humble, and it's going to come. It's going to come. You just got to start small. You cannot think you're going to go straight to the top and think that you're going to have 1 million subscribers and be this internet figure. You need to actually take real world experience and learn politics on a community level and on an individual level. And I think it's going to be better for you as a human being long term as well, to see politicians and the opposition not as just the screaming media, but actually as human beings, and learn how they think and how they process things and how your system works. All right. That wasn't actually a short answer. I gave you a longer answer. Olivia asked, top 5 favorite movies aside from Unplanned. I do love the movie Unplanned. I have a list of movies, and it's really actually long. I have movies I love, movies I like, animated movies, TV shows. I have a whole list because me and my husband have debates about what some of the best movies are. We have very different tastes. So some of the movies that I love, this is just a few that I'm just going to cherry pick from here. I love Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea, love those. I love Pride and Prejudice, the really long, like 4-hour one, maybe it's 6 hours, I don't know, it's just long. I love The Scarlet Pimpernel from the 2000s, Les Miserables, 2012 version, beautiful. The Sound of Music, love that movie. Schindler's List is amazing. I really love Gladiator, The Patriot, and Braveheart. Oh, love those movies. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is a classic I love too. My Fair Lady, love the music from there. Yeah, those are just a few of my favorites. Feel free to look them up. Maybe I'll do some deconstructions on some of them in future podcast episodes to give you a better idea. But those are some movie recommendations if you're looking for a good watch this weekend or tonight. I don't know. All right, Jen asks, what is your favorite Bible verse? Oh, I should have looked this up first because I'm blanking right now. We're going to come back to that one. Horwitz asked, are you single and available? No. Thanks for asking, though. All right. Matt asks, no. A lot of my friends are freaking out right now over the abortion bills being passed, and I am frustrated by their lack of understanding and their inability to see the opposite viewpoint. I'm also somewhat sometimes afraid to speak up because I fear I will lose a lot of my friends for being pro-life. Do you encourage these types of situations? And if so, how do you deal with them? My question for you is, you're afraid to lose friends because they're going to find out you're pro-life? Do they worry about that? Are you going to stop being their friend because they're pro-choice? Because a good friendship is going to be based on mutual understanding and a willingness to exchange ideas and not be on the same page about everything. You need to be able to have some differences. Otherwise, it's not really a good friendship. Because if you're willing to accept them as pro-choice, they need to be willing to accept you as pro-life and have a great conversation. And honestly, and if they really are your friends and they do stick around after you talk to them about your feelings and being pro-life, which it kind of sounds like you've already started, then they should be able to maybe hear your point of view. Maybe you give them some things to think about in the long run, long term, and maybe they find themselves in a situation later and they think, you know what, that one friend of mine, he's pro-life. I wonder if maybe he has some thoughts he can share with me about this, or maybe some support, and you can guide them to someone who can help them. So don't be afraid to speak up. I understand it's actually probably difficult to say don't be afraid. I understand if you're afraid, but don't let that fear stop you from sharing the truth and sharing your opinion, because if they can't handle that and they're not willing to love you as a friend anyways, then they're probably not really your real friend. All right. Oh, I said the wrong name. That was Mason, not Matt. Okay. Cameron asked, I just really appreciate you being so open about your politics and your faith. I try to be as I can, but it's hard to express. I'm currently a college student and have caught up with your podcast, but do you have any tips for being a conservative Christian in college? Yes, I do. Get involved with a college program, whether that's College Republicans or Young America's Foundation, which was a huge favorite of mine when I was that age, or even Turning Point USA if you're more libertarian. There's a lot of really great resources. What you need to do is get yourself involved in a group of like-minded people who can support you, who you can bounce your ideas off of, so you're not lost in an ocean of liberals and leftists who don't like you and don't like your opinion. You need to find a good, strong support group, and I definitely recommend bringing Young America's Foundation, especially to your campus. For sure, check them out, yaf.org. All right, Firelord asks, I agree that abortion is inherently evil. However, I still have questions. Since we are making abortion unthinkable or illegal, depending on what politicians decide, are you also in favor of increased taxpayer funding for maternal care, schools, and childcare? If so, by how much? How exactly should the existing money and hypothetical new funds be spent? I actually don't agree that we should include those or raise those. I actually don't think they should be around at all, because here's the thing. The reason why we make abortion illegal is because abortion is immoral. The same way murder is illegal and stealing is illegal, and anything that's unethical and immoral we make illegal, because that's what we have to do. Doesn't mean it's going to completely stop that from happening. No, because just because stealing is illegal doesn't mean no one's ever going to do it. But we will have laws to help enforce and cut down on that, because it is wrong, because it is immoral. With that said, we stop women from aborting their babies, or would like to stop women from aborting their babies, because that is a fundamental encroachment on a human right. We all have the right to life. We do not have the right to have people take care of us, take care of our children, feed us, clothe us, put a roof over our head. We don't have a right to that. That is our personal responsibility, and this is where personal responsibility comes in. It is not the government's job, and you're going to learn this if you read Ezra Taft Benson's The Proper Role of Government. Very short, you should read it. The government has a specific role, and the role that they play does not include taking care of people's housing and taking care of them and picking up the ball when somebody drops it and makes poor life decisions. That is your responsibility, okay? So no, that's the answer to that. Avery asks, Do you have any advice for people who have highly held beliefs and political ideas, but yet have confrontation and tough conversations? I wish I was the type of person who just goes for it like you do, but I don't want to be hated by some and stir the pot, especially on my account, which is overwhelmingly personal acquaintances that I have to deal with regularly who are liberal. Listen, not everyone should be a crazy, loud, outspoken conservative on social media. And that's just the truth. If you're going to have to deal with long-term repercussions of maybe getting fired or having a really hostile work environment, I don't recommend it. To be an activist for the pro-life movement or be an activist for the conservative movement, it doesn't mean you have to be a social media warrior. That's just the truth. You can make a far bigger impact having one-on-one conversations with people who are actually open to it, who want to hear your side, who want to have a civil discussion. You're not going to get that on social media. Even if they're your best friend, they're not going to have the discussion with you online. And if you do, it's probably not going to go well. You do not need to go out on your social media and blast the conservative movement to be a conservative or to be a good conservative. You don't, but you do need to take some action, whether that's going to an abortion clinic near you to pray or to minister to women in need, or giving to an organization that helps stop human trafficking or stopping abortions, or helps do something for children in foster care. Whatever it is, you can be a support to the conservative cause financially, with your time, just by talking to your friends and family and having those conversations. None of that includes being on social media. Social media is how I have channeled some of my conservative energy, but if this is all I did, I'd be a poor conservative, because the truth is what I'm doing, maybe it has its value somewhere, but in the long run, if you took someone who only paid lip service to the conservative movement on social media and then did nothing in their life to either give of their time or resources or whatever, then they're not really a conservative. They're just saying they're conservative. They're saying they're pro-life. They're not actually acting on it. So the answer to this is you don't need to blast all over your social media to be conservative. Do something else. If that's going to make your life really hostile and miserable, don't do it. It's totally okay. And if you need permission from someone, maybe your conservative friends are giving you a hard time, I give you permission to be quiet on social media and show it somewhere in your actual life. Benny asks, let's see. I'm learning as I get older to not hold all humans to an infallible standard. I'm trying to restart my relationship with Christ. I'm mostly curious on how the Bible describes being a good wife and mother, and I would like to explore it further. Also, where are some book recommendations? Okay. Oh, I said Benny. I'm really slaughtering names today. I'm reading people's usernames and only catching part of it. This is Brenna. I'm sorry. This is Brenna. So, Brenna, book recommendations for exploring a relationship with Christ and having a deeper understanding of the Bible. For practical hands-on, I really, really love Bob Goff's book, Everybody Always and Love Does. Beautiful, beautiful books. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis is really good. Honestly, Screwtape Letters, a lot of things by C.S. Lewis are a really good place to start. For a technical understanding of the Bible, I really, really recommend Dennis Prager's The Rational Bible series that he's coming out with right now. He has Genesis and Exodus. One just came out this May. The other came out last May. Really, really phenomenal at breaking down the Bible to a practical understanding so that it doesn't seem like confusing old school. It's amazing, amazing. Really recommend The Rational Bible books by Dennis Prager. As far as being a good wife, these aren't necessarily biblical recommendations for being a good wife, but I really, really recommend The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands by Dr. Laura Schlesinger. And then as far as raising children, I would go with Boys Should Be Boys by James Dobson and Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters by Megan Meeker. Both of those are excellent books. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call that good because we're out of time. I'll answer the rest of your guys' questions I didn't get to today on future podcast episodes, or check out my Instagram story. Frequently, I answer a lot of questions that I get on the spot. I'll be inspired and I'll answer on Instagram. So if you enjoyed this podcast episode, go ahead and listen to other ones you may have missed. Please subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, wherever you're listening. Leave a great review so I can read it and feel loved. No, I'm just kidding. So I can share that. It helps with iTunes rankings, especially if you're listening on iTunes. And have a blessed rest of your day.